Hey everybody, I'm going to try something new today. We're going to try painting in Adobe Fresco. And this is going to be a new one. I haven't done it yet. And this is going to be the first time I've tried out their watercolor brushes. So, we'll see how this works. All right, so let me share my iPad screen here and give it a try. Okay, there we go. So I've got my Mandalorian drawing that I worked on a while back in Fresco. And now I'm going to try out the watercolor brushes. Now, as I've worked on this, tried a few different things, I got used to the charcoal brushes and the pencil brushes, the graphite brushes, to build up and make the drawing. Now what I'm going to do is I have a underground layer, underneath layer here that I'm going to use for the painting, and I'm going to let the pencil drawing, the charcoal drawing here, I'm going to let that multiply over the layer below. So want to make sure that I have selected the proper brush or the proper layer to start painting. And what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm all ready to go here. With as we go. And all right, away we go. So start with a color. I want to go with kind of a lighter brown color. Maybe start out on his gun. And my typical method for watercolor is to start light and add color as you go. Obviously, if you go too dark too fast, you're going to have a tough time bringing anything back. Although digitally, you can get around that problem. But if you're working on paper, it can be real trouble. So I've selected the soft watercolor brush, and I'm going to see how this puppy works. Now it looks like it bleeds, so I want to, which is really cool. I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit and try to keep it into the area I want it to go. And it's so interesting how it just kind of continues to bleed. Amazing. Okay, now I'm going to get into kind of his armor here. So go with kind of a grayer color, just a little bit lighter tone. And what's nice is the watercolor is going to blend with the pencil lines, the charcoal lines I put below. And this is so weird. It really reacts and feels like water. Now, one decision I've made is that with typical watercolor, you have to be really careful to leave the paper for anywhere you want to highlight. And I've kind of already made the decision that I'm going to paint over with white to do some highlights and stuff on top of the watercolor. So I'm not worried as much as you would be on paper to fix and keep the water from covering up an important part of the reflection or highlight you need to preserve on your paper. That's probably one of the most difficult things to get used to when painting in watercolor is that whole idea of, painting in reverse, not painting wherever you need highlight and then slowly adding color and shadow in as you go. I'm going to try something I haven't tried yet. I'm going to try eraser. Does eraser work on the watercolor? It does. That is something definitely you can't do in the real world. All right, it's time for Baby Yoda. Let's find a green for him. It's a little tricky. Try to start with kind of a pastel green to start and kind of fill in. And now that I know I can erase, I don't have to be totally perfect on this guy. I can repair it if I need to. I find myself in a spot where I need to fix something. That's good. Now watch if I add a little dark to it and go into some of the specific areas where a little shadow, maybe a little darker. Yeah. Over his eyes, on his cheeks. Just trying to add a little shading here. Nice. And I can erase. Oh my gosh. So amazing. I can erase. I think I need a slightly smaller brush here for his hand. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna need kind of a darker brownish color, I think, for his eyes. Oh wow, that paint, it just picked up and multicolor eye drop. Interesting. Did not know about that one either. We're just learning all kinds of stuff here today, aren't we? So my main goal in the first stage of painting is to add a base color and then add to that highlight and shadow. It's my typical method for painting a lot of things is to start light and then add to it. And so this will be no different. Make the brush a little bigger. Get that base color in place. And then you can add to it later. I just realized I can go back in and do some erasing to make my highlight marks. That's going to be perfect. Oh, I love that. Look at that. It just kind of dips in. I heard there was a way to dry it. Maybe that's one of the settings. Dry layer. So see how the paint, I don't know if you can tell, but the paint is kind of diffusing in some of these little areas when you paint into it. Kind of like wet water would. That's a really cool technique when you, like, let me see if I can duplicate it here. Let's say you have a really wet spot on your page and you take a really wet dab of a brush and you just kind of dab in the middle. It'll kind of bleed. So probably have to do a different color, get it to really work. Let's try that red. Cool. It's funny, it's feeling really, really wet. That's interesting. All right, it's getting away from me a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that dry layer. Dry layer. I'm gonna start painting again. Let's pick another brown for his belt. That is something else. Wow. Amazing. So we're doing his glove here. Okay, maybe a little bit under there, a little bit along the edge. Okay, probably time for, actually I'm going to dry again, because when I dry, it's going to protect the areas that I've already painted. So I'm going to dry the layer and then look for a tannish color I can use for Baby Yoda's tunic. And it won't interfere with the paint that's already down. Cool. Okay, and I think his gloves are kind of an orangish color too. So kind of throw that in there. And then go for the gray again on his armor here. Okay, so base color is in place. I'm going to go ahead and dry that layer. And now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try it like a wash on the background. Let's see if that works. So what I'm going to do now is make a new layer, and underneath that layer, I'm going to try a wash. And I'm going to try a different brush. I'm going to try the larger one, larger watercolor flat wash, and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, you guys. Let's see. What color should I go with? I don't know. I'm so scared. I think I'll try reddish, brownish. Okay, here we go. Isn't that weird? It bleeds with the color. So the watercolor on the other layer is definitely semi-transparent. Okay. Went a little crazy on that puppy. Let's try making it into a kind of a richer gradient. Oh, that's weird. Look how it's coming through. That is so weird. Because you can see where the paint left off, it's kind of semi-transparent, where the wash underneath is kind of blending through. I wonder if I can fix that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Go ahead and dry this layer. And I'm going to go back to this one, Mandalorian layer. I'm going to see what happens if I go back to the watercolor brush. Maybe I'll try the detail this time and try putting a lighter tone over the top of the other tone and see if it shows up as opaque. I wonder if that'll happen. Let's see. Ha! Look at that, it covers it up. Oh wow, that is weird. I'm gonna undo that. I didn't like that brush stroke, but it's like I can come in here with a lighter color. Wow, that's crazy. So with a lighter watercolor color on a separate transparency layer, separate semi-transparent layer, I can paint a bright color over a watercolor color. Totally impossible on paper, guys, right? You cannot paint opaque watercolor over another color. Isn't that amazing? Wow. That is something else. That is wild. So I can even paint right here and it'll come back. That is insane. Okay. So as you can guess, this painting is going to get away from me. There's a lot going on right now. And it would take a while, I think, to rein it back in. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and continue painting. But I'll do kind of a time lapse because I think it'll be a little too long for me to just talk as I go. But you can kind of see the way this is working itself out is I just need to rein in the color in a few places, add some shadow and highlight, fix some of the mistakes I made here by adding the background color, and just kind of try to bring it together in a softer tone. So amazing. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause, and then you can follow and kind of watch the time lapse.